Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining our weekly podcast. I'm Robin Lewis, founder and CEO of the Robin Report, which, by the way, is much more than just a daily report. We really view it as a knowledge platform from which we communicate thought leadership on various strategic topics, through these daily reports, but also these podcasts that we do weekly. And we have webinars throughout the year and hopefully live events in the future. And along with our chief strategist, Shelley Kohan, also a professor, by the way, at FIT and Syracuse University, we welcome you to our conversation on the topic of evolution of brand management. And I am here to tell you that we are thrilled to have a real veteran who's been serving the industry for 2 decades with experience in leadership roles on the front lines, acquiring and growing global consumer brands. And it is indeed my pleasure to introduce Yehuda Shmidman, who's also a good friend, but he's chairman and CEO of WHP Global. And Yehuda, you have seriously led some of the biggest acquisitions in the brand management space. And of course, you're the founder of WHP Global. And we will explain what that entails in a few minutes. But first, let me tell our audience about some of your other work in the industry. And Yehuda, you don't look old enough to have been doing all this stuff. But you've been a board member of FSF, a board member of Express, which I also believe you acquired a percentage of Express recently.
Oh, that's right. We're going to talk about that today for sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's right. It's a joint venture. Anyway, and you're a board observer of Toys R Us Australia. So welcome, Yehuda. Very happy you're with us. And maybe you can tell our listeners a bit more about WHP Global and what you're up to.
Amazing. Well, Rob and Shelley, you guys are legends. So thank you for having me today to be on your podcast. I listen to your podcast. I read your materials. I know everybody in the industry does. And we've been doing so for some time. And Robin, as you mentioned, I've definitely known you for many, many years. Shelley, it's great to get to know you together and great to be here. WHP Global, let's jump right in, as you mentioned, to talk about the company. We are a premier brand management platform. We are headquartered in New York with 5 offices around the world. And the portfolio of brands that we own today generates over $6.5 billion in global retail sales. And it's just to sort of wrap a bow around the portfolio, think about it in terms of 3 verticals, right? So first vertical, we got to start with fashion, of course. That's anchored by Express, Anne Klein, Joseph Abboud, Joe's Jeans, Isaac Mizrahi. Second vertical, hard goods. That's anchored by our brands Toys R Us, Babies R Us, and some other toy brands. And then third, we have a sports vertical, which is anchored by the Italian soccer and tennis brand called Lotto. And so between the 3 verticals, you've got $6.5 billion of retail sales globally. Big chunk of that is outside the US, so very global. And, what's really most interesting, and I'm excited to really share with your audience, is that even though we were founded just a few years ago, 2019 was the official launch of WHP Global, we're actually at the very, very early innings of our growth. And so it's been an incredible run until now, but I'm excited to share with you and your listeners today really where we're heading.
Yeah, it's phenomenal what you've accomplished here in a short period of time, Yehuda. It surely is. And I have to, I've known you for a long time. And I have to emphasize a point here. When you talk about your current work and the impact your company's having on the brand management space, and I really believe it is, Shelley and I, we just did a podcast called Retooling and Speeding Up the Retail Model.
Right.
And one of the key points we made, and I don't know, you may have heard this podcast, one of the key points we made is about this need for strategic partnerships, not just leases or concessions or acquisitions, but companies like WHP Global that are really entrusting the future brands with a shared strategy for success. There are a lot of companies out there that, can acquire struggling brands, and a lot of them out there are, and, kind of just push them out to whoever they believe can give them a quick and profitable return. And you and I discussed this, Yehuda, I remember at length. So instead of creating a long-term plan that best aligns with their consumer market and delivers shareholder value, and I just wanted to emphasize that because I know you wouldn't say this yourself, but I've looked at your space and some of the players in it, and in my opinion, you and WHP are the real deal. Not going to mention other names in there, but you guys are, and you create these strategic partnerships with retailers like Macy's and Toys R Us now, huge, to secure a place in the future and, develop more of a long-term business model, which helps them succeed. In my opinion, you fully understand the consumer journey and how the brands and retailers you partner with, what they need to do to exceed those consumers' expectations.
Robin, you're so right. Let me just jump right in here for a second. I have to tell you, Yehuda, I have loved watching the Toys R Us transformation. It has been really exciting. And I'm actually teaching this in our retail strategies class at Fashion Institute of Technology.
Great.
So just to kind of illustrate the points Robin made, years ago, someone would have, bought Toys R Us and thrown it into a leased, agreement in Macy's. And quite frankly, it would have had failure written all over it. But instead, you have really carefully planned, strategically worked with Macy's on Toys R Us's strength, on Macy's strengths, and then you deliver the Toys R Us brand in a really relevant way, both to Macy's target shoppers and Toys R Us, their beloved brand followers. So this has really been exceptional and really fun to watch this transformation. So tell us more about the transformation, maybe how was it made? And you're gonna be making this happen in today's retail landscape. So tell us what this looks like. How'd you get it done?
Absolutely. And Shelley, now that I know you're covering these topics in your classes, I'd like to ask for a pass one day. I'd love to join one day in your class. But Shelley, to your point and Robin's point, and thank you for saying what you did. I appreciate you characterizing us as the real deal because we take it very seriously. And I want to be specific about what we take seriously. In this company, WHP Global, we have really 10 guiding principles throughout the organization that filter how we make decisions. And the first principle is this idea that we must partner or perish. And of course, we don't want to perish, so we've got to partner. And what it means to partner is of course, could mean a lot of things, but let's illustrate the example of Toys R Us as you have both highlighted to try to demonstrate what it means to partner in our view. And the first idea was, look, we all know Toys R Us as an idea, as a brand, is incredible. We all grew up with it. For me, I grew up in New Jersey. I remember going to Toys R Us on Route 4 in Paramus, and as a kid, walking into Toys R Us, kind of looking up and down the shelves and thinking, I didn't know there were this many toys in the world. And I think we all have that memory, right? So now fast forward, right? Fast forward, retail's transformed, the world has transformed, everything's transformed. Cut to Toys R Us, the brand finds itself in a struggle as a operation. Too much debt is really to cut to the punchline. So the business files for a restructuring only because of the debt. The unit economics of Toys R Us were strong. The brand, of course, strong, as measured by the consumer's emotional relationship to the brand. But unfortunately, the organizational cap structure had to be reorganized. So we came in after that reorganization, said, here's an awesome brand that we can go rescue, which is core to our mission, investing and rescuing amazing brands that are already amazing, and then providing the investment needed through new techniques of partnership to bring them back to consumers. And so after acquiring the brand, we started a conversation with Macy's, with Jeff Gannett, CEO of Macy's, with his team. And really, Jeff has actually reported this in some ways publicly, and he's kind of captured it, but I'll highlight it for you just to, really emphasize what happened. As you asked, how did this come together? And Jeff said a few things right away after doing research and sort of brainstorming with his team. Said, number one, there isn't a millennial parent in America who isn't a Toys R Us kids. We're all Toys R Us kids. So the brand is 100. Two, and this, I love the way he characterizes it, and it's perfect. He said, when you take the magic of Macy's and you combine that with the power of Toys R Us, that is a $1 billion opportunity and a lot of happy kids.
Wow.
And so the idea, it's so powerful. And so incredibly, with this vision, together we opened 452 Toys R Us stores across the United States of America. They opened last year, all by October 15th, in time for the holiday season. We had an incredible holiday season together with Macy's and Toys R Us. We had the Toys R Us float, parading down the parade at the Thanksgiving Day parade, of course. And the vision came to life and executed. And of course, now this year we have a full year of Toys R Us at Macy's. We're super excited about it. And I think when you boil it back down, Robin, to your comments, and Shelley, to your comments, what I would say is the core of this whole idea, this partnership, is this idea of exactly that. It's not a transaction, it's not a concession, it's not a lease.
Yep.
It's a very involved partnership where both WHP Global, as the parent owner of Toys R Us, and Macy's bring their best competencies and resources forward to together really change the industry.
And Yehuda, I can hear those words coming out of Jeff Gannett's mouth. And yes, and Macy's is a whole other topic, which I am convinced that he has taken that thing forward and doing a great job with it. So for him to see what he saw in Toys R Us and with you, I can hear him saying that. So I think that's terrific. And you have had a very successful track record, not just with Toys R Us so far, but you've got these other brands as well in your portfolio, and your strategic acquisition model, Anne Klein, Joseph Abboud, Joe's Jeans, and you have some others. So give us a kind of an evolution of these top brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the way we start our sort of process of evaluating how to really grow these brands through partnerships, as the one we just described with Toys R Us, but applies across the board, is we start with that DNA of the brand, right? What it stands for. We try to measure that brand power with awareness and affinity, purchase intent. There's certain characteristics we always look for. And then as we try to deliver that brand to consumers wherever they want it, which is key, and a lot of times that means through digital commerce, that means through international commerce, we look to make even more partnerships. So I'll give you a few examples outside of Toys R Us. If we talk about fashion, as you mentioned, we own brands like Anne Klein and Joseph Abboud and Joe's Jeans and Isaac Mizrahi. Take Anne Klein, for example, amazing brand, founded by an absolute trailblazer. And there's so much that Anne did in her lifetime that we're looking to really proliferate. And so after acquiring Anne Klein, we brought the brand to China, we brought the brand to India, we brought the brand to Mexico.
There you go.
And those are just a few examples. I'll give you just a few more examples of the same thread, the same methodology. Our soccer and tennis, and now I should say pickle, because everybody loves pickleball.
Right.
Our soccer, tennis, and pickleball brand, Lotto, which was a brand born in Italy. We'll be celebrating 50th anniversary this year, so a great heritage. You could kind of think of it as the Ferrari of sports, right? The Italian sports brand, born in Montebelluna, Italy. All of our design R&D still in Italy. Having bought that brand, we've now applied our WHP Global methodology to growing it. And so we've signed partnerships with Kohan in Korea. We've signed partnerships with MAP PT Mitra in Southeast Asia. And we've also, I'll just preview for your listeners, although I can't yet reveal the details, but we have a very big United States partnership that has been put together, which will be launching later this year. And so, which is perfect timing. You know, I just read actually this morning, I'm a little behind the 8 ball on this one, but I read this morning that the USDA said tennis participation has grown 3 years in a row. And that's in addition to all the pickle madness and obviously World Cup, which was amazing. So Lotto, it comes from soccer, tennis, racket sports, pickle, paddle, platform, padel, and we'll be launching throughout the United States shortly. So that's how we at WHP Global really look to invest in growing our brands. We're not trying to change the brand, or we're not trying to, as you mentioned before, try other business models. We have one business model. It's identify amazing brands that are amazing before us, and then we look to identify those that are in situations which require new investment for company reasons, not for brand reasons, company reasons. And then we look to put our capital and our resources and our platform forward to help those brands find a new way to connect with consumers where consumers want to shop anywhere in the universe, not just the United States, but on the planet.
Well, I have to say, I love your partner or perish. I just think that,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and you are so spot on with that. There is no middle ground there. So kudos to you for that. I love Toys R Us, been shopping there with my kids. I wear Anne Klein since, I don't know, the late 80s. I know I just showed my age there. And I literally have like 4 pair of Joe's jeans in my closet right now. So I don't know, you have this really great way of selecting these brands that really resonate with the consumer.
Yep.
So I know you talked a little bit about your success recipe, so to speak, you know, about the DNA and all that, but can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, what are there certain things that you're looking for in a struggling brand? And also, Yehuda, have you ever thought, wow, here's a brand that's great that isn't struggling, and wow, we want to look at partnering with them?
Yeah, so first of all, Shelley, I think I should be coming to you for advice on which brands to buy, because it sounds like we're 100 out of 100 buying brands that you love, which is a great sign. And how do we identify brands is a great question. And so let me dive a little bit deeper into that, and then try to unpack the second part of your question about you know, the brand health. So first of all, when we're looking at a brand, I should qualify, we are looking for brands of scale, right? So because we're today as a platform generating over 6.5 billion of retail sales, to move our needle, we do need brands that are generating at least $500 million or more in sales as a starting point. We also need brands that have built-in DNA, right? We're not looking for sort of the next trendy brand on TikTok. While that might be an amazing business model for others, that's not for us. We're looking for brands like Toys R Us, like Anne Klein, that have heritage and DNA. So our brands have already established, and we can measure this, have established awareness and affinity and purchase intent to the desired audience which we're targeting. That's really, really, really key. The final piece, of course, is can we be of help? Can the WHP platform actually help grow the brands in the future through our network? We have several business models that help us monetize brands. One of those is licensing, and that's the main one. We also have a digital platform in-house, which is called WHP Plus. And we have a sourcing organization in-house called WHP Solutions. So we look at our platform and we say, do we have the ability for real? Like as Robin said before, the real deal. Do we have the ability for real to add value to these brands? To your last point, Shelley, about the health of brands, we really do screen for strong brands up front. There was a day in the brand management industry, and I was a part of it, where the model was to sort of go deep into graveyards and pull out dead brands out of the ground and try to resurrect them. And that was actually a profitable model, but turned out to be what investors would call a melting ice cube model.
Yeah,
Meaning
and
you can only extract so much.
I just want to jump in here for 2 seconds. There still are some out there doing some graveyard research, right? Anyway,
and by the way, yeah, and to be fair to that idea, there is a way to make money in that approach, but there's perhaps a better way or a bigger way or more sustainable way, a bigger idea, which is really something that we, and I think we have a few others who are out there competing against us who do this. There is a way to actually invest not in dead brands, but in strong brands, that for business reasons are looking for extra capital. And so I think if you look at the thread that ties together all of our brands, whether it's in fashion or whether it's in toys or whether it's in sports, the thread that's in common from a business standpoint is that all of our brands are strong brands. And they were strong before we showed up, and hopefully with our investment they'll continue to be strong, but they also all were looking for additional capital. So that's the key. And I think that is what will sustain WHP Global for the future, is always filtering for strong brands up front.
Yeah. Of course, based on the state of retail today, there should be a lot of companies and brands out there that would be perfect for you guys. And also there's been this huge growth in DTC, direct to consumer, and therefore more and more vertical brands. So I got to believe there's still huge opportunity out there, right?
Absolutely. And that's actually maybe a good opportunity for me to talk about our latest really exciting brand in our portfolio, which is Express, because Express has a very large DTC business. In fact, the whole thing in the US today is DTC, with over 550 stores across the United States, a very, very strong e-commerce business. And Express is really, first of all, an amazing brand, over 40 years of heritage. There is an incredible organization led by Tim Baxter, the CEO of Express, the actual company out of Columbus, Ohio, thousands and thousands of people on the team who have been doing a great job. And they've been doing a good job long before we ever showed up and joined forces with them. But I want to just describe for a moment, if I could, that partnership, because to your point, there are a lot of great DTC brands. When we started speaking with Express, we realized that there was this opportunity to join forces. And what we did was we created an intellectual property joint venture. And together we own that joint venture. WHP Global owns 60% of that joint venture. EXPR, which is the public entity, right? EXPR, that's the stock ticker. That entity owns 40% of the joint venture. We are partners. And WHP Global's job in that partnership is to go do what we do best, right? Picture in your mind an Express flagship in Dubai. Picture an Express in Tokyo or Shanghai. That is core to our business model, going global with awesome brands under the same exact DNA. And at the same time, the EXPR entity, which remains public, led by Tim Baxter, CEO, and that amazing team, is day in, day out continuing the mission of really running an incredibly well-oiled machine of what is a multi-billion-dollar DTC business in the United States. And they're doing an awesome job. And so I've actually joined the board of directors of that company. We as WHP Global also invested capital, and so we are a shareholder in that enterprise. That enterprise together, we will together actually be looking at buying more brands together, where EXPR will be able to run the DTC platform in the United States, and WHP Global will look to license and grow the brands globally. And so it's a trailblazing partnership. It's a game changer. And we're really just bringing together forces around what started, of course, as a great brand in Express.
Yeah, so will Express eventually house some of your current brands and future brands, probably, right? Or are they going to be, are all of the goods in the store going to be carry the Express label?
Yeah, so definitely think about each brand on its own, right? So EXPR, as we're referring to, that is the entity that owns the operations to Express, and the Express stores are what you know them to be, right? Amazing fashion product with a purpose, building inspiring confidence. That is the Express brand.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we're not intermingling that with our other brands, but in the future, using that incredible organization that has a best-in-class team around omni-channel operations.
Yes.
Imagine EXPR now being the operators of a new brand that we will buy together.
Got
So
it.
for
Got
your,
it.
yes.
Go ahead.
So if in your audience, and I know they're out there, you may have a current brand owner who has a big omni-channel or DTC presence, I should say, in the United States, but is looking for a new partner or a sale. We are in that market to buy. And I should mention, Robin and Shelley, and I didn't say this up front, but I should have, founding this company, it was done, of course, with this idea, right, of acquiring these great brands that are in need of capital.
Mm-hmm.
But also it was done in partnership with private equity. I know you've spoken a lot about private equity and the impact of private equity on our industry. I would posit to you that this is one of the great examples of success, because in our business, we've got incredible private equity partners who have helped us fuel this vision. Started with Oaktree.
Yeah.
We added in. Other partners have joined since, including BlackRock and Ares and Solis and others. And together, we have really been able to deploy that capital and further the vision.
Yeah, those are big deal names for
They
sure.
really are.
Yep. So now, one side question here. Tim Baxter, that name, I know I've met him somewhere in my career. Where did he come from, Yehuda?
Oh, Tim is the best, and you've definitely met him because Tim was the chief merchant of Macy's. He's had an incredible career. He's an outstanding leader, truly an outstanding leader. I personally love being his partner. Corporately, we love being his partner. We're big believers in him, in his leadership, in his team. By the way, his team is exceptional at EXPR, just absolutely exceptional. And as we go layers further throughout the organization, because we haven't yet met everyone, of course, there's thousands of people on the team. The DNA of the team is really permeates throughout, and that's, of course, stems from Tim and his leadership style.
Okay, good. Yeah, I now I remember way back at some point meeting him. Anyway, so here's a softball question for you. Based on everything you're doing, which is absolutely terrific, and in our current exciting yet challenging environment, and boy, it gets seems to get more challenging every day. So, Yehuda, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, that's a classic question. It's funny, when I in my public company days, investors used to ask me that all the time.
Really?
And I used to wonder how others would answer that question. Other sort of public company CEOs. And I heard a public company CEO said, "Oh, my kids keep me up at night." I thought, "Oh, that's probably a real answer." But I'll tell you, in this business, what I think about truly last night and every night before it, and I'll think about it tonight, is how do we make sure that we seize the moment, because the window is open right now. And look, COVID did a lot of crazy things to a lot of on a human level, obviously, but on a business level, it did a lot of crazy things. One of the things it did was it opened up an incredible window for us, and our growth propelled way farther than we expected before COVID, because there were so many brands for us to invest in and buy. Right now, we're back in a second wave of that because of the volatility, which you've talked a lot about in your podcast, and everybody is thinking about, right? The obvious things. Actually heard the founder of Oaktree made this comment, not to be directly, he made this comment publicly, but he said, I don't recall one 5-year forecast, and all the 5-year forecasts I was pitched, I don't recall one that predicted, and then he listed 20 things: pandemic, war, inflation, right? So the point is, there's so many things you can't control, but what we can perhaps attempt to control today, and this is what I think about at night, is how do we seize the moment? Are we working hard enough, fast enough? Are we allocating the right resources? Do we have the right, the big enough team? And we're hiring as fast as we can today. Do we have a big enough team to seize the moment? This is our moment, and capture it before that moment passes.
Boy.
Wow, that's really interesting. And Yehuda, I have to say that I think I'm excited about the industry, as you probably know. I get super excited, but I think our industry has literally grown threefold in the last 3 years. Like, we've just grown 30 years in 3 years. So what are you most excited about in 2023 or even 2024?
Yeah, it's a great point about the growth. It has been just mind-blowing. 2023, 24, I would highlight 3 or maybe 4 big initiatives. The first, of course, is what we started the podcast with, which is Toys R Us. Jeff Gannett, CEO of Macy's, came out, identified this as a $1 billion opportunity. We, of course, 100% agree. And building the Toys R Us business is super exciting. That's number one. Number two, Express. We talked a little bit about that today on our podcast. The Express brand is incredible. The idea of growing it globally is super compelling, and we're very focused on what that platform can mean for all of us, even with new brands in the future. 3, Babies R Us. We're back. We're opening a flagship this summer at American Dream, which is an extraordinary mall. I know you've covered it before. That will be the beginning of our national launch, which we haven't yet announced the details of, but we're focused on, of course. And so Babies R Us is in focus. And then 4th, which I alluded to earlier, is the national USA rollout of Lotto, our soccer, tennis, pickle, paddle brand, celebrating its 50th anniversary. Those are the 4 things. By the way, that's not a force ranking order. We are excited about all 4 of those initiatives equally. And the team at WHP Global, which is exceptional. As I mentioned, we're 5 offices today. We're close to 100 professionals. We're growing rapidly.
Wow.
We have an amazing, amazing team that is really driving each of those initiatives and more across each of the verticals.
Well, Yehuda, I'm totally impressed, really, everything you've talked about today. But I must say, I'm not surprised, okay? You mentioned we had lunch a while ago before the launch of Toys R Us and Macy's, and we had a great discussion, wide-ranging. You are very smart, and about the industry and where it's headed. And it was clear to me then that, you really got it, and particularly how to position brands, how to align with, partner with, strategically and complementary and synergistically, position your partnership with retailers. So, Yehuda, my bet on you is a stellar future. And thanks so much again for being with us today. Really enjoyed it. I know that Shelley and I, along with our audience, learned a lot. And I think you should, tell our audience if they want to get a hold of you or whoever they should get a hold of, shout it out, let them know. Okay.
Absolutely. And thank you, Rob and Shelley. You guys are, as I mentioned, legends. It's an honor to be here. The best way to reach me on this podcast is through you, because everybody knows how to reach you guys. And you please keep doing what you do to give really smart analysis, forward-thinking analysis about our industry. Thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Go
Rob.
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Shelley. No.
Thank you, Yehuda, so much. And I'm just going to mention two quick things. One, I don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to say it. Express in Dubai. I just got back from Dubai. Home run. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
Great.
Home run. The second thing is you and I have a lot in common. You may not know this, but I am the official tour guide for the National Retail Federation of American Dream. So
That's amazing.
I visited your Toys R Us store there and I saw the Babies R Us is coming. So I'm very excited about that. Good luck with that as well. I'm sure it'll do great there. And for our listeners, you can find more of our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and of course, therobinreport.com. Look for us on YouTube where we broadcast our podcast as well. And of course, follow us on social media, link in with us for the latest thoughts about the industry.
And I want to thank everybody again, and especially Yehuda for you joining us and taking time out of your very, very busy day. And as I always do every week, if anybody in our audience has a topic that they would love Shelley and I to cover, and also if you want to get a hold of Yehuda, he mentioned, let me give you my email. It's Robin, R-O-B-I-N, at therobinreport.com. And thank you all so much again. And Yehuda, thank you so much again. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay.